start with Conscious Conversations number 2. This is Lucy Koniarska, and she is in Egypt, in Cairo right now, and I am in Northern California. Every time we talk, I always feel really warm and inspired because you share so much from your heart. And you and I have just met, for people that are watching, through a course that we did through Mind Valley. And we've now got this beautiful little community of 5 of us that are all sharing our gifts and our talents with each other. And because of the conversations and the thread in our WhatsApp group, because they're so uplifting and so inspiring, I really felt called to speak to each of you during Conscious Conversation, because they're not just everyday regular conversations, right? They're really mindful and thoughtful and loving, and I just love when we all get together and have conversations with each other. So don't you just love the fact that we can transcend all space and time right now through the internet?
Yeah.
It's just amazing. I just love that when you get the time zones right, it flows.
Yeah.
So I'm going to start with an angel prayer. You know that I love the angels. It's the angel prayer for tranquility. Dear angels, help me find tranquility in my life and to bring it into the lives of everyone I meet. Inspire in me a deep relaxation and a permanent peace that molds my life. Show me ways to make my path smoother, easing into each day with joy and ending each day with the satisfaction of soul fulfillment. Guide me to find the time and resources to care for my physical, mental, and emotional bodies, so I am renewed each day in joy and peace. Help me see the tiny moments within the busy rush of life in which I can find solace. Share with me a deep tranquility and relaxation, especially in times of stress and need, until these blessings become a part of every moment of my life. Amen, amen, amen. Thank you, thank you, thank you. And I love that we're talking about tranquility, because you mentioned something to me earlier in the day or this week about something that you've been doing with aromatherapy oils. And I'm really, really interested to hear more about this, because I'm a big fan of using aromatherapy oils as well. So can you tell me a wee bit more about that?
Yeah, well, it's extremely hot here at the moment, and I have small bowls of water, and so I don't need to use a burner because it's the atmosphere is so hot. And so in each bowl in each room, or if I have 2 bowls in each room, I'm choosing different fragrances: sandalwood rose to heighten the vibration, and geranium for mood, and lavender for relaxation, and ylang ylang and cedarwood for sleeping, and patchouli and petitgrain in the bathroom, and peppermint and rosemary to freshen the air. It's like, and lemon in the kitchen. So everywhere I go, I just get a breeze of each different fragrance. So
Your home must smell like the most gorgeous concoction of floral smells and scents right now.
I try.
Beautiful.
I found them. I think I started when I was 19, when I was at Leeds University, and I just found them. And there's a wonderful shop in Leeds near the train station called Id Aromatics, and they import and make and supply all of their own essential oils. And I just learned from going in there, and they would import sandalwood from Mysore in southern India, and lavender from France. And so I just learned where the essential oils were from, and and the different qualities, and what does it mean, and how to use them. And it's just fascinating, because I found that everything that you're attracted to, as simple as you and like the smell, or the smell resonates on that day. And then every time I would look it up, it would be specifically for what I needed, like geranium for menstruation, or PMT, or premenstruation, but more the emotional side when I was getting anxious, and lavender for soothing, and sandalwood for blessing and raising the vibration, and tea tree for, healing. I had so many infections, and and it's just amazing that there's so many, and that you can self medicate with them. by smelling them. But
Mm.
again, it was just learning you had to trust your intuition. And what is fascinating is that once I'd done that, then I started to, and the more I read, the more I realized that I'd just connected. I just, it's like, yeah, yeah, I knew that because that's what suited me at the time. That's what
Mm.
I liked smelling. That's what I wanted to use.
And do
And
you, the ones that you have right now in your home, are they already blended, or are you putting a drop of
both,
geranium and you're
yeah,
doing both?
just try to find sources that I like or that are good quality. But so they're not perfume, but they are essential oils. But still, there's different qualities and different
Mm.
dilutions of them.
Yes,
But
I have a one blend here from doTERRA. Do you know Breathe? Do you know this one? Breathe is this one's got eucalyptus and peppermint and melaleuca and lemon and cardamom, and when you breathe, when it does what it says, it does on the
yeah,
bottle, you take a smell in, a breathe
takes
in,
away.
and wow.
Yeah,
Oh, so gorgeous. I love this one, Breathe. And also, I'm a big fan of lavender. I love using my lavender,
yeah,
especially a few drops of on my pillow to help
yeah,
sleep or even in the bath. So,
yeah.
but I've never thought of putting little like bowls of water with some drops and just leave them around the house. I've just never thought of that. I would have thought you had to have a burner or one of the things that blow that, what's it called? I've got
Yeah,
one.
vaporizer.
Yeah,
Well, you
vaporizer.
you would normally, I would normally use to because you just want to evaporate it into the air. But because it's
Mm-hmm.
so hot here,
Mm-hmm.
the bowls I think are traditional. Are they called ulis? Ulis, they're traditional Arabic and Indian bowls, but usually very big,
Right.
like
I don't know.
large
I don't know that word.
iron bowls of water, and then
Mm-hmm.
we can place floating flowers in them
Oh,
so they
yes.
float on top of the bowl, but essentially it's to cool down the atmosphere in when it's very dry and hot.
Mm-hmm. Are they not
So
I'm picturing as you said that, they're like kind of brass in color or
yes,
very, very thin
iron. Yeah,
material?
yeah.
Iron. Right, right. Yeah, I do. I can visualize what you're talking about. Oh,
Mm.
it's just such a lovely idea. And fragrance is so beautiful. I love all the photographs or the pictures that you've been sharing with us on the WhatsApp group, the pictures of the hearts everywhere, like
Yeah,
hearts in such random places.
yeah, everywhere. I think I first saw it on Oprah. I think I saw it first on in her magazine or somewhere. There was a picture of a leaf in a heart shape,
Uh-huh.
and then I just started noticing or finding them on Pinterest or wherever. And then one day, a few months ago, I looked down into my coffee one morning, and the froth on the top of my coffee had formed a heart. I just looked
Wow.
down, and then I shared it with all my sisters, and two of my sisters hilariously sent back images of their cup of tea.
Their tea with no froth.
It was like, you completely missed the point. I'm not sure. I'm not sending my coffee. It's the heart in them.
Oh,
And I
that's so funny.
what your niece said, ask her. I bet she will understand what it is. And then, and then it just that week and that month, they just were coming thick and fast. And then I was noticing them everywhere, in trees and on leaves and in an onion that I was slicing for lunch.
Oh,
So I was
that's
just
it.
thinking,
I mean, I know that when you go into somewhere like Starbucks, they actually purposely put a heart shape on your coffee, but
yeah,
I can't. It's really quite incredible that I was going to say I can't believe, but I can believe actually
yeah.
that it's incredible that that just formed a heart
Well,
shape.
that's what my sister kept had one sister say, "Oh yes, I see. You can do that with the machine, and you can do that with the thing." And it's like, no, I just looked down, and the heart was there. And so after several conversations, that was in convincing them that no, it just happened. And
Right.
then they
Convincing.
started seeing things when not seeing things, but seeing hearts. And one
Yes.
sister saw it in a petal on a flower, and another sister saw it in the clouds, and just
Wow.
began to see it. And the more you see, the more you see.
Yes, I
And they
actually
just
noticed someone, one of my friends on Facebook posted a picture of the clouds and said, "Can you see what I see?" And I saw, she's in Scotland, and I thought I saw the Loch Ness Monster, even if it's not real. And everyone else was saying, oh yeah, I see a horse, I see a horse. And it just reminded me of when I was a child. We had this
Yeah,
babysitter called Mrs. Brown, and she was much older. She was kind of like your olden days version of a grandma, what a grandma would look like then. Now everyone's grandma looks really young and fit and healthy. And she was just this old lady, and she used to always get me to look up at the clouds at bedtime. And she would be like, look up in the clouds and see if you can see something in the sky, see a shape.
yeah,
And it was such a
yeah,
lovely thing to do. And I love finding shapes and
yes,
pictures in the sky, especially if you're looking for
yeah,
signs and you want them to talk to you. I love my angel cards, and
yeah,
I'm planning to like choose one every conversation just to add some
yeah,
just add a dimension into the
yeah.
conversation as well. And when I did it the first time, I was holding these cards in my hand, and one fell out. And normally I would choose that one, but I thought, well, I hadn't set my intention yet, and I put it back, and then I shuffled them, and the same card came out.
Card came out, yeah.
And that card for us today is study.
Oh, yeah,
So you can see there's a gorgeous rainbow shooting
yeah,
above her head, which is basically propelling us into the future and the past and the present with everything that we're learning right now.
yeah,
And she's holding this book, and she's just in bliss as she fills her mind up with education and learning things. And
yeah.
so I'm curious about the things that you're learning at the moment. I know you're on
Mm.
massive intentional quests. So from all the studies that you're doing, which is your favorite at the moment, Lucy?
Oh, they genuinely they all are. Because that's why I chose them. They were just all. There's the money EQ, which is great. They're all incredibly deep. I love the energy work one because it's so simple. It's
Mm-hmm.
incredibly simple, and it's all for when he's talking. It's like it's a lot of information that I knew from a long time ago.
Mm-hmm.
Um,
Do you
and
mean like
so
a long
he's
time ago, years ago, or past
yeah,
life, long
yeah.
time ago?
Sorry,
Do you
like
mean
about the
you mean in your physical, in your human life, a long time ago?
yeah.
Right.
What do
Well,
you mean? Were you asking me if I know it from like past lives?
yes, yes. You probably do already as well.
Well, people have always said that to me. I never said it myself. But people
Mm,
always asked me that or said that to me, and but I've never really said that. But yeah, just some about 30 years ago, and then never having anyone to talk to about it really.
mm,
Um, and that's a really you need people to talk to. So, and he's telling me stuff. It's like, yeah, I can do that. It is very easy because it's just energy. We're all energy.
hmm.
So it is
It's
essentially it's easy. It's like breathing.
right.
And I saw an advert recently for it says taking over the world. Someone's doing these deep breathing workshops, and they showed a big auditorium and people learning how to breathe. And I was laughing and laughing because I understand it's different to consciously breathe and to be aware and to breathe more deeply as adults. But it's slightly comical because we have to breathe to be alive. And I was thinking it's like that. Obviously, you lose it a lot. It gets dulled and numbed, I think, if people aren't talking about it.
And the
Better
guy
now?
you're talking about is what's his name? Alan. What's
Jeffrey Allen.
Jeffrey Allen? That's the energy course that you're talking about.
Yeah, yeah,
So is it things like when you hold your hands up, you can feel the energy between your hands, and like
yeah,
I've done that often, like where you feel like a ball of energy and
yeah,
it's so strong, and then you can use that energy. I can feel my hands tingling right now as I do it,
yeah,
but you can like use that energy to feel like people's auras and heal things or sense energy. What does
yeah,
he talk about? What like is there a step by step process as to what you would do with the
yes,
energy? Right.
yeah. It is step by step. He talks about he just has a very simple 5-minute meditation for grounding,
Mm-hmm.
and he talks us through it, and then we visualize grounding. We visualize either a tree trunk or a waterfall or a shaft of light into the center of the earth, and then you
Mm.
repeat every day to practice it. To practice, he talks about traveling to the center of the earth to gain grounding and energy, and he talks about being able to ground buildings and then cities, and using exactly the same technique. You just use a bigger image each time.
Wow.
And yeah, it's really wow. And that's the first part. And then today I'm on the second week. We're moving into intuition and higher minds and the Akashic records, which
Mm,
is what you were just talking about, where actually all of us can delve into the knowledge of the entire earth, of the entire race, the human race, from the
hmm.
beginning of time, which would make sense because we're all carrying the same genes. So it just
I
makes sense.
actually had an Akashic Records reading or healing
Really?
about 3 or 4 months ago, and I was
Oh,
really
wow.
curious. Yeah, I was really curious about it. I read her book. Oh my goodness, I can't. I should have. I didn't know this was going to come up. I don't have the book right here with me. It's in my other room, but I can send you the information. But she had this invocation prayer to begin with, and allowing in, like, please, like, allow me to be open to receive the messages. And she also spoke in the language of she had there's like an ancient language or that I wouldn't understand. And I was lying on the bed or the plinth, and she was doing all these different just different prayers at all different parts of my body along all the chakras. And she did this other thing where I could feel like little heat, like little pricks of heat, that she was lighting incense or something. And it sounds really woo woo, but it was actually really, really, really relaxing. Like I think I
Mm.
actually fell asleep. It was so relaxing and very healing. I felt very strong energy around my whole body, like it was really tingling while she was doing her. I mean, I had my eyes closed the whole time, but she was probably doing like a similar type thing to Reiki, where she was like holding her hands above me and moving
Mm.
them down my body. But yeah, I didn't really know much about the Akashic records, but I also it really helped me with the channeling because there's a prayer that she says that you read it and then you just really relax into your body and you just start writing and you listen not from your head but you listen to about like listen with the ears behind the ears, like listen to the 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 universal wisdom that wants to come through you. And it's
Mm.
funny because there's such a fine line. Like when I really tune into that voice, I always have this moment at the beginning where I think, is this me telling me with my mind? But then there's this, I feel like there's this other voice that I hear that's like guiding me, and it's not my ego, my mind. It's something else that's telling me, which is actually the same voice that directed me to find my grandma's grave when I couldn't find it. I was in this huge graveyard and I was looking for my grandmother's grave, and I kept walking around in circles around the same area because I thought it was somewhere near there. And I just said, look, angels, please can you guide me to my grandma? I don't know how to find her and I've only got a certain amount of time. So I just let go, and this voice popped into my head and it said, walk forward. And I walked forward, and at that point I felt like I wanted to turn right, but the voice said, well, keep walking forward. And I was like, okay, Madeline, don't listen to yourself, listen to this voice. It said, turn left. And I turned left, and then the voice said, stop, and then turn right. And I turned right. It was like a maze. And
Yeah.
then the voice said, look in front of you. And I was standing right there in front of her. And that was after 15 minutes of walking around in circles, not having a clue where to find her. And I just handed it over, listened to this voice, and it guided me straight to her. So I think
Where is the grave?
it's in Glasgow. It was in a cemetery in a Jewish cemetery in Glasgow, and there's like very like hundreds and hundreds, maybe even thousands of graves. And I knew it was in a certain area, but I didn't know exactly where. And I've just used that technique, like just really letting go, asking the angels for guidance or universal wisdom or whatever it is that comes through. Please, can you help me? Like, help me find this ball that my dog just lost in the bushes that I can't see, or help me find my grandma, whatever it is you need to find.
Yeah. Yeah. So he talks about that completely again. But there's this, the other night I just went to the TV and the film Harriet was on. Have you seen it?
Yes, about
With Chloe
the black
Pullman.
slave,
Yeah.
that she is this leader, incredible leader. And
Yes.
yeah, it's
And she talks,
incredible.
and that's what she had. That's how she does it. She's like very
Mm,
connected to God, and she
mm,
prays, and she's led by, exactly as you're saying. Like she's told,
mm,
okay, stop. go this way, go that way. She can see it. It's all in. It's just it's great. It's great to watch as a piece of like African history, feminist history, women's
Hmm.
history, but it's the spiritual history as well. Just this is what happens when people follow their gifts and are very connected.
She
And
that that
I thought they did it beautifully in the film
that
to
movie was
explain it to
incredible.
people.
It was
Yes,
so inspiring, and I love
yes,
watching movies like that, stories of true stories,
yes,
historical, like this
yes,
actually happened against all the odds. It's phenomenal, her strength, and it also reminds me of when you are so deeply connected to your purpose in life, um, to your what you were brought here to do. It was like she was fearless. There
yes,
was nothing that could hold her back, and
yes,
nothing that could tie her down. And she was literally like, this is, and when you have conviction like that, you can't
yes,
argue with it. She
yes,
was just
yes,
so strong in her, and
yeah.
leading her fellow
Well, yeah,
fellows out of slavery and into freedom. It was
yeah.
really quite incredible. I mean,
It's
mind
when you
blowing.
have it's like the Hebrew prophets when you have righteousness.
Yeah, say more about that.
That's just what I know. When I've studied the Hebrew prophets, like Amos,
Mhm.
when you have righteousness, God on your side,
Mm,
what you're doing is righteous. It's like the prophet Amos, and he says that justice roll down like water and righteousness like an ever flowing stream. And it
mm,
was repeated often recently after the death of George Floyd, and it
mm,
was a verse that was repeated often by Martin Luther King, and it's the conviction, but it's when you're channeling God, it's like the
mm.
righteousness. You're doing
Yeah,
this is God's work. It's you're righteous.
I love
And the
that.
prophet Amos, yeah, and the prophet Amos was righteous. It was just wrong that people were rich and materialistic and had lost the sight of God, and so it flows like water. And it's
Mm.
like so it comes through you. It's righteous, and you're connected to God. And
I love that.
you
And
have to
there's
have that conviction because the force is coming through you.
No, I
Yeah,
love that. And with that, there's humility. Like, again, it's
yeah,
so the opposite of ego. It's just like having the humility to not let yourself get in the way and to just be of service. And what you're going to do with that righteousness. And these prophets,
yeah,
were given these gifts because they were there to share them with their community, with their people, and just, well, not, I guess not everyone did use it for good, but when you hear the stories of people that have these gifts, that they're directly connected to the divine or to God, and it comes
yeah,
through them, and they're able to stand as a leader and lead their
yeah,
people because of what they know that's higher than their own brain. Like everything that we're learning right now, it's Lisa Nichols, who I remember from The Secret, and she's a total powerhouse. And they were talking this morning about waking up to who you've always been, like
mm,
not being asleep. And that if you're feeling uncomfortable, then that's a fantastic sign that you're in the right direction, because discomfort is a great sign. And they were talking about if the path has already been paved, then it's not yours. So they were just saying, it was talking about just dynamic change and how so many people would rather stay comfortable. And it's like, oh, I'd love to do that, or I want to change that, as long as I don't have to spend that money, or as long as I don't have to give that time, or as long as I don't have to grow and learn too many different things. And they were talking about how uncomfortable it is to be committed to the changes that we want for ourselves and to really step into who we are. And it's about who you're becoming and doing you in a really good way, and the whole concept of living while you're alive.
yeah. Yes, I'm also doing her Speak and Inspire quest, and we're starting to write stories. I've 25 incidents from life, and then so we're just beginning and then writing a bullet point for each one.
Oh,
And then
wow.
these were our stories. Yeah, there's a lot in it, and she goes very deep.
So
She goes really
25
deep.
incidents from life that you write down, and that's
You
like
can
a
do
layout for a
3 or
book.
25 or more, and yeah, and I found it quite easy to find 25 and more, and then I have to.
Wow.
But what I need to do is go through each one and write the bullet points So that would be
Right.
like the skeleton of the story.
Mm-hmm.
And then you add to it and add to it and you craft the story. But the incidents would be things that that would be interesting to share. There'd
Mm.
be like moments when I decided to love myself, when I realized,
Mm.
and I just feel like I've just been waiting all my life to write a book and haven't done it. And again, one of the reasons was because writing was always so easy for me, and I think partly I didn't realize it was a gift, even though my teachers were telling me.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't realize because it was so easy. It's a bit like the energy work, and I didn't realize that actually, like I say, when he's talking, it's just like, yes, I know exactly what you're saying. Yes, I do that. I do that.
Mm-hmm.
So, and I learned from the woman. I think I have it. I just strongly sense that it's the same woman that you also saw, who was doing this women's spirituality workshop
It
and
very well
taught
might
us.
be. Yeah.
Yeah,
No, I was thinking about that. I wonder if it was the same woman. I met her in Australia. No, I met her. She's Australian, I think, or maybe she was British living in Australia. But she was just this mind, body, soul healer, and I ended up doing this energy course with her, and like doing the healing people's auras from a distance, and it was really really fun. I loved it. I loved the feeling of what it felt like to just stand. One person stood in the middle and then everyone was standing in a circle around them. And we just had our hands out and we could feel up and down the aura of that person, like where there might be some blocks. And I guess if you just practice it, you get really used to that feeling and you can do something with it.
she said lots of things. She's talked about grounding. She
Mm-hmm.
said that there were, for example, meeting women who'd been already diagnosed as mentally ill and in psychiatric wards, and they're walking with no shoes, and people thinking that's a sign of their mental illness. And she was like, oh, it's so obvious they're just grounding themselves.
Yeah, that's brilliant. I love that whole
Yeah,
thing, that grounding. I've been doing it every
yeah.
day, just walking without any shoes and socks on the
I am.
grass.
I'm doing it all the time, as often as I can
Yeah,
here.
it's so good. It's like the conscious
Yeah,
choice. Whenever I take
yeah,
the dog out to walk, I just automatically now take my shoes off, and it's just it's a
yeah,
really, really conscious thing to do for yourself and for your health. I
yeah.
love that.
Grounding about mental health, and I later went on to do my master's in preventative mental health.
Hmm.
Yeah,
So I'm really,
yeah.
actually, really curious about doing this course that you're talking about, the energy
Oh
course with
yes, you
Jeffrey
would love
Allen.
it. Yeah, I would
Yeah,
love everyone in our buddy group. Yes, I think of you all the time. Like, every exercise I just think, oh, you'd all love it. Oh, you'd all get this. Oh, you would all love this for everything that you want to do.
right. No, I love that.
And the way that he describes everything, I know from our conversations that everyone would just get it straight away and would
Mm,
just be going, oh, yes, I can do this and I can do that. And he just describes how he understands the physical world very well because he's originally an engineer. So he
hmm
has that very good grasp of the physical world and the energy world. So he knows how to explain it
hmm
very clearly,
Right.
and what's happening and what the difference is. And he does it really well. And today we were looking at what overthinking looks like, well,
Hmm.
how it manifests, and what it is when when you're not overthinking, but you're in the energy zone. So that you have really clear markers, so that you know when you are overthinking and when you are in the energy zone, and how. And there's a lot of repeat in the quest. A lot about understanding our own healing. Like
Hmm.
today was very deep in the money quest. You have to understand your family, your generational traumas, and your as well as your personal traumas, to understand, um, why anyone would have any difficulties
And this is about
with money.
the money rather than the energy, or they're both mixed.
Well, the thing is, the point in the with the energy, and then in the money quest, and then doing the Lisa's quest, because this is how I was spending my morning. And
Right.
then
Wow.
it was the same thing. It was like you have to go right into understanding your traumas and your family's traumas and your generational traumas, and you have to heal them. And
Hmm.
then again, yes, it's something that I knew before, but it's just amazing, like just tapping into quests, and everybody is giving the same information.
Hmm.
You have basically everyone has to in order to evolve.
Right.
It's not if you smooth over it, yes, that's what we do as a survival mechanism. So
Hmm.
people repress memories because that helps you to survive. So you don't dwell on it at the time, and you
Hmm.
move through it, or you disassociate, or you express. But ultimately, then that becomes a huge block and a huge problem. And you
Right.
really have to be able to get underneath it, name it, and walk through it.
It's reminding me of, have you ever heard of constellations?
No?
Constellations is when you there's a group of people and you would take one person who's got an issue or a trauma they want to work on, and then everyone else in the group, like maybe there's, I don't know, 10 or 12 people in the circle, they will they'll the person whose trauma is, let's say it's a family thing, they'll choose people in the circle to stand in as the energy of like my grandmother, my grandfather, my son, my daughter, or myself. And then they, once they've chosen the people to, and it's not acting anything out, it's purely energy, then they'll place, the facilitator will help place these people in the circle, inside the circle, and the person whose trauma is will literally watch what's going on. And the people that are in the circle that are like, let's say, you choose someone for yourself to be you, and you choose someone to be yourself to be, choose someone to be your mother, then you would actually have a say in, like, I want you to stand a bit further apart. I'm not comfortable with you standing right next to each other because you and your own mother don't talk, right? So that's how you would start. But then the facilitator goes round and sort of whispers things to say into each person, and they say it, and then it's how you feel, and it all unfolds into this whole scene of, energetically, you're literally watching your life playing out in front of you, or that trauma, and the healing that comes from it. People get to say things that they wish they'd said, or they wish their father had said to them, or they wish their grandmother had said to their mother, for generations. And it just shifts this whole energetic platform for the person whose trauma it's about. So that was one of my first spiritual experiences that I came across when I moved to Northern California. So I did a couple of constellations, and they were absolutely mind blowing. There was a guy who was in our group who was in his 80s, and when we first started, he looked like an 80-year-old man. He was very, like, almost like hunched over, and a lot of wrinkles. And I mean, some 80-year-olds nowadays look like they're 60, but this guy was like
Yeah.
he looked old and tired. And no joke, by the end of the constellation, he had the energy of a boy. Like, he looked 20 years younger, and his energy was like wide open. He had a big smile on his face, and he was just so overwhelmed by, it's like he'd received the love from his mother that he'd never got it when he was a boy, you know. So it's just a wonderful, constellations. You can look it up. I think it was originated in Germany or somewhere in Europe, and it's a very popular healing modality now. So that's another piece of energy. I think we actually might be out of time, Lucy. I have to really get better at looking at the timing for these things, because this whole recording these Zoom conversations is very new to me. So I think that we will definitely come back and have another one if you're up for it.
Yeah,
And
I'd love to.
yeah, it's just great to share what we're
Can I just
learning.
ask you something?
Yeah.
You mentioned many groups and places that you've been and people that you've met. I just wanted to ask you, so have you continuously worked and visited groups and
Do you mean throughout my life?
yeah.
Yeah, I think I have. I think probably since I got back from my travels. I went traveling. I mean, I went away when I was 18. I went traveling around the world with my sister. We were backpacking, and I met so many amazing people during that year. And I had a profound, like, epiphany of just like what it felt to feel free and unencumbered. And when I came back, I was like wearing a bindi. I had, like, my hair was really long. I had everything pierced, like my tongue, my nose. And I was just like, and then coming back to Scotland and looking for a job, but still having the mentality of this, like, wandering nomad, of just feeling so free. And I remember thinking, I'm not going to change myself. This is who I am. And then ever since then, I think I really had a very strong urge to connect with like-minded people, and I would find different communities and different things to learn. So I've always been a student of spirituality, and I think I probably always will be. It's really about finding your people, like you said, like to have people to share these things with that are not going to think you're crazy. And luckily for us, because of the shift, the massive shift that's happening in the world right now, and the mass consciousness and how open
Yeah.
people are becoming, it's easier to find people that are open and get this kind of thing, you know.
Yeah. Yeah.
Energy is so huge. It's such a blessing to have the time, really, and to be open enough to be learning from all these different thought leaders right
Yeah.
now. So
Yeah.
with that, I think that we'll take our studying heads and our minds and our souls and share what we know. And until the next time, I'm really, really grateful that you could join me, and I can't wait to do it again with you.
Great.
Thanks,
Great.
Lucy.
Thank you.
Good night.
Good night. Bye-bye.
Bye.